it is Bell.
Yeah.
Let me look it up. But
Yeah, I
I'm
believe it's
pretty
Bell. So
I'm pretty sure because that makes sense. Yes, they got Noah Gray. I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things, I guess, when you're looking at it from a standpoint, just gotta. This is why Veach is always getting
proactive.
players, trying to figure out who's going to help, and that's important because you don't know what's going to happen.
Never
But
know.
looking at the list, let me see. I'm not seeing him on it.
There's another tight end that had it. So we have 4 tight ends, right? I could have swore they said one of our tight ends had
On
it.
Tuesday, there were Tyreek Hill, Rashad Fenton, Blake. Oh yeah, there is. I can't even see.
Like
Yeah,
Bell,
there he is.
yeah.
Yeah, he's on there.
Okay. I thought he had
Mhm.
it. So
Yeah.
now whether he, comes off of it quickly, we don't know. But again, Tyreek left. He was gone over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't in town after Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you're flying on a plane. If you're flying on a plane, you're going wherever you're going, you're coming back. All of that stuff mixes in. And with the fact that this stuff is just so highly contagious right now, anybody can catch it. It doesn't mean that you're going to get deathly sick. It doesn't mean you're going to die from it, but you just, and it is mixing with this other variant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the scary part is that, it's starting to mix with Delta. And when you mix the two together, then you got a Delta that's 25 times more contagious. And that's what they're trying to avoid. So it just is what it is. But right now, the likelihood of Hill and Kelsey playing, I'd give it like.
Well, and
40,
I would
50%.
not be surprised in this. And I'd be kind of curious, but do you think it's possible a lot of players could come off the COVID list Sunday?
They can, because they can test up to an hour before the game.
I feel like, Saturday. Sorry. I feel like maybe I saw a tweet, someone speculating that they heard on the radio. I'm working all day, so I've had to listen to sports radio, but they said that they heard them talking on the radio saying they would not be surprised, or there's a good chance a lot of players could come off the list Saturday. So, it'd be interesting. So,
you just have to see. It just really depends on a person's immune system. If they, were sick prior to that, if they had any kind of bug inside of their system, and what they do to keep themselves, regimented to work, they can flush it out of their system quickly. Right now, there could be some more that come off, but there also could be some that go on. So it's just too contagious to know right now. But I knew, when I talked to that Fox Sports reporter, I told him, I said, don't expect us not to have it. That's because it's going to
come to every team.
Oh, it is.
I think we've gone to a different era where it's not as crazy as we thought it would be. So,
yeah,
17 players.
Yeah. And I think, was it Cleveland had 18?
Cleveland, Washington football team had a high number. I think there's another team. I can't remember who, but I think they're going through right now.
The Ravens have got a bunch of people, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Lamar Jackson's not playing again this week.
Basically, it's affecting every team.
It is. So, it's just something that's going to happen. I know they don't want to push the season out too long, but in the same aspect, you got to look at, revenue is not always the main thing, I guess.
That's true. You're not wrong. I think when you look at the end of the day, it's just, this is why Veach and Andy sign certain players and they do certain things to where it can help the team.
Exactly.
So everyone was like, why we get Elliott Fry? Because COVID insurance. Why we get Tommy Townsend's brother? Joe Thompson. Now, I don't know what his name is, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful for nothing, but I'm just saying, like, they signed these guys to back us because you never know what's going to happen. Obviously, they saw something in Elliott Fry. They saw something in Townsend's brother. I don't know his first name. Sorry if he's listening. I don't know your first name, man. But they do these things in order just in case, because you don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day. And that's important because, say Mahomes gets it. Now, here's a question. I'm just kind of curious. What if Mahomes got in? They're supposed to be a playoff game. Would they get rid of would they move the playoff game, or kind of what are they going to do? I'm just kind of curious.
If it's just Mahomes and nobody else, no, they're not going to move it. They're just not. If it was Brady,
there'd be a lot of people. There's a
if it was Brady, they'd move it. They'd probably put it to next year. After what I saw in that Saints game, if anybody ever, I sent it to Mike today. Mike from the Mike and You podcast, because he's a big Brady fan. And I said, if you think for 1 second you can ever lie to me again and say that doesn't get special treatment, come on, man. Because he sat there and cussed, not just once, but a few times at the Saints bench in front of a ref, and they didn't even fine him, much less call taunting.
You would think that would be taunting or something, but he doesn't get fined. It's like if Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, if Patrick Mahomes, if
Tyrann
Jimmy
Matthew.
G, Tyrann Matthew, who's Matt Ryan, they would have been in trouble. But Tom Brady just escapes, just passion. But no, it is not passion. He's being a butthole at that point.
Exactly.
Basically complaining, throwing a tantrum, like if throwing a 43-year-old tantrum because he's not getting his way. That's basically what we all saw.
And we also saw that he can't win. We just saw something that we have been saying for years, and it just seems to pass these Brady lovers by. But we've seen the fact that without his 2 star receivers, which he didn't have 2 of his star receivers and a running back, he can't play well. If he has to have a stacked offense. Yes, has there been times he didn't? Of course, but he had a top 5 defense with Belichick.
Belichick always provided him a top 10 defense. Always provided him one.
Every time. And does he have a great defense now? Yeah, he's got a good defense, but they're
not as good as last year. So
not as good as last year. No, they're not. And I think our defense is actually better right now.
Our defense has stepped up.
Yeah. So it's comical to sit and listen to all these excuses for Brady, throwing the Microsoft pad and breaking that and doing all the things that he's done over the last 3 years. Not shaking certain people's hands because they're beneath him.
That's
all those little things but it's okay because it's Brady. He's got 7 rings. Why don't they ever give credit to anybody else that played on those teams, man?
I think that's fair. I mean, that's fair, JP.
The defense won.
Whenever this isn't something I talk about with my dad a lot, and I know I have friends who love Brady, and I just tell them this: whenever Brady wins, it's Brady. It's Brady 100%. But whenever Brady loses, this is what happens. It's not. It's everybody else but Brady. Yeah. Basically, what we have is they're considered the Tampa Bay Brady's if they win.
Exactly.
Because it's all about Brady. But if they lose, it's his wide receivers were hurt. That. I'm like, no, it's a team game. You win as a team, you lose as a team. It doesn't matter what happens.
Exactly. I mean, you look at the Patriots and all their Super Bowl runs. Every one of those teams had a top 5, top 10 defense.
Top 10 defense that were
consistent. At all of his. Look at his postseason numbers and his Super Bowl numbers throughout his entire 7 wins. They've all been below average compared to other quarterbacks that have went in and destroyed. I mean, even against us, he only had 201 yards.
Yeah, because
So I mean, people could say what they want about him, but I'm sorry, it's just not all it's cracked up to be. Okay, it's one guy on there on Twitter says it's rigged. What's rigged? I asked him. I said, "What's rigged?" He goes, the game was rigged. I said, how was the game rigged? How was that Bucs game rigged? He was missing 5 of his top receivers.
I said, play. Wait a minute. People love to joke and say Brady can play with $3 store General stalkers.
Yeah, just I want to know when he got 5 top wide receivers in the league.
I mean, the Bucs were a solid team. He helped complete them, no doubt about that. But you got to be, if you're the greatest, you got to win without those. So this will be interesting, JP. If say Hill and Kelsey can't play, now I'd be kind of curious if Mahomes rolled out there with Harmon, all these other boys, and end up beating. That'd be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it would be.
It
would be. Solidify.
That's and what that I'm be honest with you, looking in. I don't know what we'll get to, but looking at that game, I think the defense can do a pretty good job holding. It's just the offense has to be consistent and do what they can do to score. Because we got some weapons. We got to figure out who we're going to use, how we're going to use it, what's going to happen. So
yeah, we got Snead back. We got Chris Jones back. We got Ward back. And again, I put for everybody that follows our page, I did put a stats page up. It's almost complete. You can go on there and look at some of the stats from November and some of them into December. But looking at Ward's season, he's fantastic, dude. And in fact, he was shunned again. I'm looking at this Pro Bowl thing, and I know I'm jumping off track real quick, but for some of the guys to get shunned, they got shunned out of this Pro Bowl, is a travesty.
Yeah, we got to talk about that a whole too.
Yeah, we're going to have to do that later. But Ward has been extremely consistent. He's played through sicknesses. And like I told Philip he put out a tweet and I told him, I said that what people look at, the reason they basically don't consider him what they think he should be is because they look at flash and INTs. Period. That's what they look at. But they don't look at the fact that he's better than the 3 guys that got into the Pro Bowl as far as his touchdown percentage goes. Okay, he's at 40. I think he's at 40. He's only allowed 43 or 46% of a pass completion and touchdowns. I think he's only allowed 2 or 3 touchdowns this season. Maybe 2. I can't remember. I have to look at the stats again. But Phillips not wrong. I mean, he shouldn't have been shunned.
I think where we're seeing this, Ward has been consistently good. He really doesn't give up many touchdowns. He does a pretty good job, and it just makes no sense to me why he can't even get like honorable mention or alternate. He's always been consistent. Guy. Well, and that's the frustrating thing. And I think one thing is Ward is a good player. Once again, Brett Veach traded Parker Ingram, who was going to get cut for Travarius Ward. Probably one of the best moves we've seen him make.
Yeah,
and that was his first year as the GM too. Yeah. When we had that terrible defense. Ward is good. He knows what he's doing in and out. And I will, if we ever could, man, I'd be love to get him on the show and talk to him because this man, like you said, he wasn't able to walk at one point in his life.
Wasn't supposed to.
Oh, yeah. Well, and he's already at this point now where he's playing in NFL, living a lifelong dream, but he's not getting that respect and recognition. Ward has been consistent. And that's one thing that this defense needs, consistency. And I feel like he is one of the many building blocks and pieces that we had from that 2018 defense. That's one of the worst that came over to the 2019 defense that kind of helped change the culture in a way.
Yeah, it did. And look, I would much rather have less touchdowns given up and less yardage given up and first downs than somebody that is basically always going after an INT, because the guys that chase INTs, i.e. Marcus Peters, you will get burned more than
come on, leave Marcus alone.
No, it's true. He got burned more than he got burned more than he stopped. And that's because he was always looking for the INT. But if you're not looking for that interception and you're just looking to actually stop the play from happening, I'd rather have Ward all day long.
No, I agree with you. I think it'd be nice to have Peters, but he doesn't tackle, and Ward will tackle.
That's my point. I mean, and he tackles.
Deion didn't tackle, but Deion was just that great. Deion didn't really need to. Deion didn't need to. He didn't need to
tackle. And he had speed, and he could catch everything that came his way. Mm-hmm. So there was a little difference. I mean, did they want him to? Yeah. But he used to joke all the time, say he didn't want to mess up his hair.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to mess up his
got image. A bald head.
Now he's bald. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things that I would much rather have a guy that is consistent and can stop anything going his way versus somebody that's just looking for the interception all the time, because 65% of the time you're going to get burned if you're always looking for the interception.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
He knocks him down. He's got his interception.
He does a pretty good job. I don't think last year was a down year. He didn't really play that bad, and he had a broken hand. And this year he's been playing pretty consistent too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Alex, you're gonna get scored on. We see it happen to Jalen Ramsey. We saw it happen to Darrell Reeves. We see it happen to all the other guys, but he's been pretty consistent.
Yeah.
And even this last game with John J. Baker and Mike Hughes, did they struggle? But they were consistent. And down the stretch, when we needed them the most to make a stop, they did. So I think we're fine from the cornerback perspective. Oh. But JP, I think it's a travesty that Trey Smith and Creed Humphreys did not even get an alternate for the Pro Bowl. And I understand Orlando Brown and Chiefs, he's good, he got it, but I was kind of surprised. I'm like, he didn't really have that great of a year. From my opinion, that's my perspective, because I didn't really pay attention to him. I know he was good. I was more looking at the consensus of which Trey Smith was Creed Humphreys doing. And when I came to it, I was like, well, you think, Orlando's good, but what about Trey and Creed?
Yeah.
And that just made no sense to me, because they were having all crazy years. Creed Humphreys has a 90 PFF grade, and that's phenomenal, dude, because you don't see rookies getting that, especially in offensive alignment. No. He's basically the quarterback of the O-line. So when you see things like that, and then also Trey Smith not getting his fair shake, it's kind of like, is the Pro Bowl even worth it at the end of the day? Is it even worth it?
Here's another question too. Is it, are we going to need to, I guess the one thing that I would say to that is, are we going to even need to be in the Pro Bowl? I mean, are they going to?
No, we don't need Pro Bowl. The Chiefs going for Super Bowls. They're not worried about Pro Bowl selections and all that. They want to go for Super Bowls.
I could tell you right now.
Okay.
His numbers. Let me pull it up. See if I got one up.
Because it's kind of like every year you see players get snubbed. Like Chris Jones